And now, Move the Sticks with Daniel Jeremiah.
What's up, everybody? Daniel Jeremiah, joined here by Bucky Brooks, and this is Move the Sticks. Buck, what's going on, man?
How you doing?
I'm just ready for preseason to get over, man. We got one more week to get through.
You were so excited for the preseason to start,
I was.
For it to be over.
I admit, I was pumped up for football to be here, but then there was a college game this last weekend. So I saw a meaningful football game, and now I can't once you see the original and what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, oh man, I can't do preseason anymore. I want to see real football.
Yeah, and it's different. Like for me, I go back to when I was a bubble guy trying to make a roster. Like week 4 was everything. So if you look at it from that standpoint, I'm excited to see how these guys end up the season. Like some of the unheralded players, some of the young quarterbacks that are destined to be backup quarterbacks this year. I want to see how those guys play and perform in week 4.
One quick story. I remember in the 4th preseason game, we had a defensive end. I want to say it was Nate Bowling with the Baltimore Ravens. He had 3 sacks in the 4th game, high-fiving everybody. He was loving life, and the next morning we cut him. So it was like, for TV and for what we do here, hey, let's sell it the 4th preseason game. You make the team. Most of these decisions are already made.
Well, yeah, because you want to make sure that going into the 4th preseason game, all your starters on the sideline. You can give some young guys some opportunities, but pretty much with the exception of 2 or 3 spots, most of these decisions have already been done and made. You're just trying to hope that none of those guys that you don't want get hurt because you don't want to have to put them on an injury settlement.
No question. Well, look, we had a big week on Move the Sticks last week. For those that are just checking us out for the first time, I explain a little bit of what we do here. Bucky Brooks has played the National Football League, but he was also a longtime scout. I scout National Football League, so we kind of combine our experiences, give you a look behind the curtain in terms of what goes on in the evaluation process. We'll break down what's happening in the NFL right now, and then if we get towards the draft, we'll really crank up and look at the college game as well. And last week, Move the Sticks has been an audio podcast, and now we're in the video age.
Right,
so
big time.
YouTube. So we're going to be on NFL Now, and we're on YouTube right now. And last week we had a lot of views on YouTube, so thank you guys for doing that. You can subscribe on YouTube, or if you want to pick up the audio podcast, you can subscribe on iTunes as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic that we're able to allow people to kind of peek behind the curtain, talk about what's going on and how you connect the dots between some of the moves that are made and transpiring the transactions every day.
And real quick, the Around the NFL podcast has taken – I've been told they took some shots.
They took some more shots?
They took some shots. And look –
because you talked about the toaster with Chris West?
No, look, I don't have anything against toasters. I like toasters, and I think they've just misinterpreted that, the fact that they've built an empire around, having a toaster contest. I think it's great, guys. I mean, that's phenomenal. Congratulations to you. And you take some shots. I'm cool with it. I'm a big boy. I can take it. But TD, for those who don't know, TD is our producer behind the glass. He runs a show here, and he does a nice job of chiming in. He kind of represents the fan, so he'll tell, what kind of questions the fan would have. And in case we were wondering about how often TD would be jumping in our program today, he's highlighted his name
on the rundown.
On our rundown.
So we know that this is the TD spot.
We know exactly when TD. So TD, what's coming up on today's show?
What's going on, guys? All right, coming up on today's show, we have we're going to talk Redskins quarterbacks with the Kirk Cousins and RGIII news. We're going to talk about the Bills quarterback situation. Tyrod Taylor obviously winning that job. And then we'll jump into our running back preview. We're doing quarterbacks, wide receivers, and edge rushers. Today we're going to look at those running backs in the backfield.
Yeah, and what we've done with these previews is
hold on, TD. I'm confused because last week TD was ultra athletic with the Run DMC Adidas stuff on, and today he has a little H&M working with the European, the European fitted sweater and stuff. It's a little different look for you, TD.
I'm trying out new looks,
Last week was LL Cool J. This week it's Rhythm Nation. He's got the Rhythm Nation going back there. It's strong. I like it. And what we do, though, when we break down these players is by position, is we're really doing it in 3 terms. So in 3 terms, how would you describe the top running backs in the NFL? That's what we'll get to a little bit later. But TD mentioned the headlines. Cousins is named the starter. Kirk Cousins named the starter over RG3. Your first reaction, to me it wasn't a surprise, but what was your first take on it, Buck?
You could kind of read the tea leaves and know that this is the move that was coming. I think from looking at Jay Gruden in his past, I think he's just very, very comfortable with a quarterback that is like Kirk Cousins. You look at the success that he had with Andy Dalton, kind of a guy that is more of a decision maker, game manager, more so than playmaker. I think there are some coaches in the league that prefer guys to just execute the system and let the system kind of do the work, as opposed to a guy that ventures off to the script and you can't necessarily reel him back. I just think Cousins and even Colt McCoy, both of those guys kind of fit the skill set of what Jay Gruden expects from the quarterback.
Well, before I tell you what I think of Kirk Cousins now and going forward in this offense, I like to go back in the vault and find some old reports. So this is from the 2012 draft. I'll read you my summary here on Kirk Cousins, which I did on a cross-check. So for those that don't know in scouting, you have your area that you cover, and then you have cross-check positions. So you don't go into the school. You just watch the player on tape. As you know, Buck, you've done this a bunch.
Yeah, no. So if I'm on the West Coast, my responsibility is all those Pac-12 schools. You being maybe a higher up, a national scout, or maybe just a guy coming out your area, you would come to the school and just kind of give another set of eyes, maybe a differing opinion to either confirm or just force us to look at it a different way based on how you see it.
And one of the smart things good organizations do is when you send scouts into schools, they don't talk about players with the other scouts on their staff until you get back for your meetings. So, in other words, if I go into Michigan State and watch Kirk Cousins in September, and I know Bucky's going to be a cross-checker, he's going to come in November, I'm not going to tell him what I think because I don't want to give you any preconceived ideas. I want you to see it all for yourself.
Don't want my information leaking into your report and vice versa, because it does happen when you talk a lot.
No question. All right, so here's my summary real quick on Kirk Cousins. Good foot quickness in his drop, avoids taking false steps, has a high quick delivery, generates enough velocity to make all the throws. He's at his best when he gets a good pre-snap read, hits his back foot, and throws on time, which is kind of interesting. That's what this offense is. His accuracy is very consistent in the quick game. He gets into trouble when his first read is taken away. He will either panic or force the ball into high traffic areas and freeze up and take sacks. He lacks poise and playmaking ability. When things break down, he will lose his cool. He needs to improve his ability to anticipate on intermediate and deep throws. Has arm strength to get the ball there, but he waits too long. Allows help defenders to get over the top. He's very accurate on designed rollouts. He's very good at squaring his shoulders when he rolls to his left, putting the ball on the upfield shoulder wide receiver. Ball security needs to improve. Had a bad red zone pick against Ohio State. Overall, this player had a lot of areas to improve in his game, but I do like his arm and athletic ability. I can't endorse him as a starter, but I think he has the tools to eventually be a very capable number 2.
What you described is what he really is. Like, if you go back and look at what Kirk Cousins has accomplished throughout his career, he's a solid backup. And I think that's probably the ideal role for what he is and what he will continue to be going forward. He is a guy that's very decisive with the ball when he gets to the top of his drop. He is at his best when that first read is open. He can get to the top, stick it, rip it, let his playmakers around him make plays. And so in Washington, when I look at the composition of that roster and what they have on the outside, Deshaun Jackson is a capable big play threat. Pierre Garçon can make plays. They have the ability to control the middle of the field as well. And then with the running backs, if he's protected, he certainly can have that offense functioning at a high and efficient level. The key will be, can he be protected, and can he work when they take away Deshaun Jackson or Pierre Garçon very early in the route progression?
Yeah, look, to me, they have Matt Jones, the rookie, who's done a nice job.
Like
with
him a
Alfred
lot.
Morris. They need to run the football. He played well. I thought Kirk played well against the Ravens the other night, but he threw the ball 27 times. So do the math. They don't need to be throwing the ball that many times. 52 passes for this offense for Kirk Cousins, I don't think it's a recipe for success.
No, I think there's a pitch count. I think you have to keep him in that 25 to 28 number. If they're able to do that, it means they're running the ball successfully, and it still affords them enough opportunities to make big plays in the passing game.
RG3, $16 million, which is guaranteed for injury only. So that leads me to believe there is zero chance
he won't get
he's on this roster. I mean, I don't know how long you keep him on the roster, Buck.
You know, I don't know. I think unless there's the novelty of having RG3, because Dan Snyder sees him as a guy they really invested in. They put a lot behind him.
Can't leave him in the building, though. That's toxic.
But because of the amount of money that they have, I think they're going to jettison them. I think the big thing, and what you're always fearful of when you invest a high pick, and they've really invested a lot in him, if he goes somewhere else and becomes the guy that we saw in 2012, that's the one thing that will lead you to hold on to him. But I think at this stage of his career, he's probably better suited to play somewhere else under someone who can appreciate whatever skills he brings to the table at this stage.
If you knew how hard I was trying to think of a Janet Jackson song to tie in to bring TD in right now, but I've got up. I'm doing our morning show here at NFL Network, so I haven't got a lot of sleep. So other than I can say, you want to be the one in control, TD. Do you have anything for us?
Yes, I got a question for you guys. As a fan or a fantasy football player, like, what happened to RG3? We saw him in 2012 when he first burst into the scene. Maybe perhaps the best rookie season ever by a quarterback. What happened to this guy?
Well, to me, it's pretty simple. Look, they trotted him out there year one. and they let him move around and do what he did in college, get on the perimeter, run pass options, get him outside where reads were defined. You put him at risk by doing that, and he took shots, and he physically did not hold up. So has that successful year playing in that style, but they knew that wasn't sustainable. So you come back year 2, and you say, okay, now we're going to make him a pocket passer. In order for him to survive, he's got to play within the pocket. Well, he can't play within the pocket. He struggles mightily. So then you progress forward. Okay, well, maybe now he needs to go back, try and be that mobile guy again. Well, he breaks down again. It's like you can't win either way. Either the way he's supposed to play to be successful, he can't stay healthy, or the way they want him to play, he can't play in that style of game.
Yeah, no, I think some of it is self-inflicted wounds because he talked about wanting to be a classic drop-back quarterback. And, it takes a lot of skills to be able to play from the pocket and excel from the pocket in the National Football League against the speed and the complexities of the defenses that you face. I think for RG3 going forward, it's important that he finds a system that fit what he brings to the table. Look, he's a mobile passer, and he understands he comes from a very, I won't say elementary because I don't want to disrespect Baylor's offense, but it is a very simple system.
And this is the same thing Bryce Petty's going to have to deal with the
same
Jets.
thing. And so when I look at RG3, it's important that he does play in a system that does put him on the edge and allows him to kind of simplify what the reads are, whether it's the flood reads where everything is in a level right in front of him, or he works one side of the field versus one coverage and another side versus the other. He cannot play in what is a pure progression system that has him scanning the field from right to left. I think it's just too much for him to process at a very rapid rate. He'll always struggle in that.
And I think people looking for landing spots, trying to identify places where he could start. I'm of the belief he needs to go somewhere where he can sit, he can watch, he can learn, and he can really, in simplest form, get some confidence back, Buck. Because when I look at him, when I look at how things went wrong in Washington, I see a quarterback with no confidence, and I saw a head coach with no trust in his quarterback. Mm-hmm. He needs to go someplace where he can get both. And to me, in order for him to get his confidence back, he needs to sit for a while.
I think he needs to go to a guy that's a proven quarterback developer, a guy that is willing to take him on. And he's kind of the pet project, not only over the offseason, but you really work with him. And so the first guy that comes to mind when I think about being a guy that could help him kind of resurrect his career, in New York under Chan Gailey. And the reason I say Chan Gailey is because Chan Gailey is a guy that will adapt his system to fit the talents of his player.
Had Cordell Stewart.
He did it in Cordell Stewart, made Cordell Stewart a Pro Bowl caliber player. And if you really think about what Cordell was doing prior to his arrival, that's really surprising. You look at what he did with Brian Fitzpatrick in Buffalo, Tyler Thigpen running the pistol in Kansas City. The New York Jets would be a good place because Chan Gailey. I think another good place, I'm going to go on a limb and say San Diego. And the reason I'll say San Diego, Mike McCoy and I go way back to Green Bay. He was on practice squad when I was playing there. He's a very, very smart guy, but going all the way back, we worked together in Carolina. Jake Delhomme became a Pro Bowl player when he was a quarterback coach there. Mm-hmm. You look at what he did in Denver with Tim Tebow and Peyton Manning, the versatility, how he's helped Phillip Rivers regain his game. I don't know if that system is ideal for RG3, but I do think the coaching that he would get there would also be terrific.
We're going to move on to Tyrod Taylor in just a second, but real quick, I don't know if I had told you this. When I was in Baltimore, we signed Cordell Stewart, and I had to go pick him up. And the company vehicle was unavailable, so I rocked the '94 Accord that I was driving at that time when I was making $30,000 a year. So I get in this Accord and I call him. I didn't even go inside to meet him, and so I called him to come out and meet me. And he literally walked out to my car. He's like, "Seriously, this is where my career is? I got this young guy picking me up at a '94 Accord. The windows don't even roll down. The AC doesn't work." I'm like, "Yeah, hop, let's go, man."
I got a story similar. How about this? John Snyder was the guy that picked me up from the airport when I went to Green Bay. So, yeah, when I went to work out for Green Bay after being released from Buffalo, he was the one that took me around the chauffeur. So now he is the general manager and the big deal.
And we used to have what was called van grades. So if you picked a player up from the airport, you took him to his physical, we were young scouts. They didn't know they were being evaluated. So then we would have to write something in a computer about what we felt about that player.
Wow, how you interacted, how you treated people, yes.
No question. All right, let's move on to Tyrod Taylor. Rex Ryan names him the starting quarterback, Buck. Look, we go back to what he was in college. Ultra explosive and athletic. I'm talking about explosive with his legs and an explosive arm. Sits for a long time there behind Joe Flacco in Baltimore. Now he gets a shot with Buffalo.
A very exciting player. When you talk to people in the offseason, there were people that believed that he would come in and have an opportunity to win that job. And I know on the national level, it was kind of like scoffed at. You couldn't envision a guy that was a backup player with only 35 attempts being a starter. But when you talk to people that are close to where Tyrod Taylor is from, the 757, which is the Tidewater area in Virginia, he's an alpha personality, meaning he's a natural leader. He's a dynamic playmaker. He showed that at Virginia Tech. And so when he goes to Buffalo and you think about Greg Roman and what Greg Roman was able to do with Colin Kaepernick, an athletic guy that can make plays in a variety of ways, Tyrod Taylor has been a nice fit. And backed up by Shady McCoy and surrounded by the weapons on the outside, I think he could have success in Buffalo as a starter.
Best or most talented quarterback to come out of that area where he came out of, Buck?
You know, it's funny because on the high school level, you would say Ronald Curry would fit that. Ronald Curry over Michael Vick.
But what about AI?
Oh, Bubba Chuck. Bubba Chuck from that
Allen
area.
Iverson,
How about
man?
that? Bubba Chuck all stayed in 2 sports. You know, like it's funny, like that
You growing
area.
up? What's the age difference where you were growing up? For those who don't know, Bucky grew up in North Carolina.
I grew up in North Carolina, but we were always familiar with all the people that came from that Virginia Beach area. I want to say, like, Allen Iverson, I was right after college in the pros, but very aware because his AAU team would come down and whoop up on my dad's AAU team. So I'm kind of familiar with it.
Oh, I could go. I got to get some Allen Iverson stuff once we get through this. Look, I think the Buffalo Bills, their defense is phenomenal. I've said last year I thought I'd put their 21 up against anybody's. It was the quarterback, the 22nd person that was holding them back. I think they're going to keep score down on defense. Offensive line, I think, is a little bit of a work in progress, but I think they should be able to run the football with LeSean McCoy. I hate saying this, but just like don't turn it over, man.
Well, I mean, actually,
just create a couple big plays, get you 20, 21 points. They'll win a bunch of games.
If they do that, if they can just look, the defense is going to operate under the mindset of let's hold everyone under 17. So the 21 points that you allude to, that's more than enough to get them enough wins. He has to kind of balance when to make those improvisational plays versus when to just kind of play smart, sound, situational football. If he maintains possession of the ball, and really, like, even if they end most possessions with a kick, they'll be fine. He just can't give it to the other team and give him advantageous situation where they have a short field to go against that defense. Because that defense is terrific.
No question. They need to get Stephon Gilmore healthy back because I think he's got a chance to be a big time.
Yeah, because my young guy, Ronald Darby, is struggling a little bit.
He's like outside. Hero or zero. He had 2 picks in week 2, I think.
Oh, man, they found him. Where's Waldo?
Yeah.
Ooh. And look, you tweeted this out about Clemson and having Sammy Watkins and Nuke Hopkins and Martavis Bryant.
With Andre Ellington
Andre
Ellington at running back, Dwayne Allen at tight end. Whew. Yeah, no, that didn't work out so well. All right, last week we talked about pass rushers. Before we move on talking about these running backs, Buck, I want to circle back real quick because a player we did not mention last week, and look, this is the reason why. We talked about the top 5 or 6 pass rushers in the NFL. Those are the guys we hit. Then we tried to hit one under-the-radar player and then one young player. So, to me, Khalil Mack didn't really kind of fit in that.
I don't think he qualifies
in that group and those top guys. But he's somebody that's all set up to be a dominant football player. Played really well last year. The sack numbers weren't high, but a zillion pressures. And I know it's a preseason, and I know Arizona, what they're playing with at right tackle was disgusting right now.
Yeah, Brad.
But that was, you saw just how twitched up and explosive Khalil Mack was the other night.
You know, being in the building and watching it up close, I mean, he is a guy that is very explosive. He's powerful. His ability to walk those guys back into the quarterback, his ability to play against the run, those things stand out. I think the thing for me, you talk about the Arizona Cardinals and the way they struggled. The week before they struggled against San Diego, we saw Melvin Ingram really get after him with his speed. For Khalil Mack to go from good to great as a pass rusher, he has to diversify his game. What I see from him is a guy that's kind of like a bull in the china shop, a very powerful rusher, a guy that takes guys right down the middle. But elite pass rushers have multiple pitches in their repertoire. He has to be able to also at times win with finesse and speed. And I don't know if he necessarily has that in his game. I think he's a guy that can always create disruption and penetration, but I don't know if those sack numbers will ever kind of put him in that special category when it comes down to it.
TD, you want to weigh in here, buddy?
Yeah, I have a question for you guys. I mean, this guy was dominant on Sunday, and I always want to know, who does this guy remind you of?
Well, this is the thing. Sometimes there aren't perfect comparisons, but there's a play or a trait that reminds you of somebody else. And so I want to preface it by saying this. Look, I don't think this is an apples-to-apples comparison. But in terms of the speed to power and in terms of the leverage and twitch, like just the explosiveness that he has, And he doesn't have the spin moves that Dwight Freeney has, but the leverage and the explosiveness. I remember watching Dwight Freeney going up against, when you're talking about tackles, 6'6", 6'7", 330 pounds, forklifting them off the ground because he was so twitched up, had so much leverage. I saw a little bit of that with Khalil Mack.
You know, when I look at him, it's funny because I got into a debate that stems from us having our
Scout versus Scout.
Yeah, the Raider Nation Twitter fans blew me up when I said that I saw him as a complimentary player, a guy that needs to play on the backside of someone. And I still kind of see that because most dominant teams have 2 pass rushers. I see him as a guy that could be more like a Ahmad Brooks for the San Francisco 49ers when they had Aldon Smith, meaning Aldon Smith commands attention, but this guy's wearing you out versus one-on-ones. I don't know if Mack's game will translate where he's able to win versus double teams consistently, but I think he can be a very, very effective player, not only against the run, but as a guy that kind of wins versus one-on-one matchups on the pass if they can find another pass rusher to emerge. And I'll say, the guy that kind of stood out in that game was Ray Armstrong.
Yeah.
They did some 3-4 defenses that allowed him to collapse. His speed and quickness stood out. He and Mack could be a nice combination, but I will say this about the Raiders defense. They look outstanding. They look ready to go. If that offense comes into play, you might want to be careful about venturing to the block.
I'm going to put you on the spot right here just so Raider Nation can weigh in with you. Wins this year. Raiders win how many games?
I think they can get to 500. I think they can get to 500. Derek Carr has to play better than he's shown in the preseason. I like Amari Cooper. I think he really solidifies that offense. Defensively, they can play with anybody. But Derek Carr has to make a stride and really become a guy that can push the ball down the field, can take those risks, but still doesn't turn the ball over because he has to average more than a little over 5 yards per completion per attempt. It has to be
I think they're a better football team, but I think they're 7-9 because that division, I still think they're the 4th team.
I like what Jack is doing, though. They are playing with a lot of energy. Ken Norton has really energized that defense. And offensively, it's about Bill Musgrave finding out what he has. They have to be able to run the ball. They couldn't run the ball against Arizona on Sunday.
All right, let's move on to running backs. And this is kind of in our series. I have this online on NFL.com where I call it Trait 8. So I take 8 players at a position and I bust out their 3 top traits. And but for here on the podcast, we're going to do 6. And so we've kind of identified these top running backs in the NFL in no particular order, just the 6 elite guys. And I want to challenge you. You go first here, Bucky. Marshawn Lynch in 3 traits. How would you describe him?
Workhorse, rugged, relentless. Workhorse in terms of this is a guy that you can give him a heavy workload. You can depend on him. He can anchor that offense. And I think he does anchor the Seahawks offense in a number of ways, not only as a rugged runner between the tackles, but also as a very effective pass catcher. I don't think he gets enough credit for that. I think his relentless spirit and energy really sets the table and the tone for that team. The way that he plays, the forcefulness that he plays, we talk about the Beastquake 1 and 2, that kind of typifies what he brings to the table, which is why I think he is the most important piece of the puzzle in Seattle.
All right, so for my 3 traits, I'm going to start. First one is a word that I use with Dez Bryant. That's angry.
Yeah. Because
Dez plays, angry, and I mean that as a sincere compliment. The way Dez goes up and gets the ball. Look, Lynch, Marshawn is just so angry and aggressive the way he runs the football. Strong, the strength to be able to pull through tackles. When you're evaluating a runner and you use the term power, a lot of times that there's lower the shoulder power, and then there's step through tackles, pull through tackles, strength. He possesses both. And then finally, the underrated part of his game is his patience. A lot of times you get a big physical runner, they're going to take the ball full speed ahead, run into the line of scrimmage. You worry some about their vision, and it's just kind of a bull in a china shop, to steal one of your phrases, Buck. He is very, very patient too. You talk about a running back being patient to the hole and then exploding through the hole. That's Marshawn Lynch.
It's funny because I laugh. When he was coming out, there was a debate between Marshawn Lynch and Adrian Peterson. And I talked to a coach in the league who's now working with another team, and he said that Marshawn Lynch, to me, is a better pro. And he said the reason he'll be a better pro is because he can catch the ball out the backfield. Now, it's debatable about which one is probably the better player at this stage in his career, but I just thought it was interesting that you can have a big physical back that can do all those things between the tackles, but also make plays on the perimeter in the passing game. And when you look at the Seahawks, whenever they get in trouble in the passing game, the ball goes to Marshawn Lynch.
They used to split him out at Cal. They would split him out wide, let him run slants, do all kinds of stuff. He's fantastic.
So to talk about that debate, let's talk about Adrian Peterson and the 3 words that you would use to describe what he is as a player.
The first one is maybe the most overused word in sports, but this guy earns it, and that's freak. I use freak for guys like Calvin Johnson, and then Adrian Peterson is the running back equivalent to me, because you're just not supposed to be that combination of size, speed, and athletic. But you just don't see guys like this. It is truly, once a decade, once every 2 decades, you're going to see a back that's built like him, that has the skill set that he possesses. So freak is my first one. Explosive. Even at this point in his career, you still see that explosiveness and that burst. And then finally, powerful. Similar to Marshawn Lynch and just that power and strength. Man, early on in his career, there was a game against Chicago. I remember breaking that game, watching that game down on tape, and just like, that's not normal. What I just saw, I've never seen that before. This is not a normal guy.
Oh, unbelievable player. Super physical, can do all the things that you look for. And so when I bring out the 3 traits, tenacious, punishing, and franchise. Tenacious in terms of, you described Marshawn Lynch running angry. I believe that Adrian Peterson absolutely runs angry. He gives an attitude to that team with the way that he brings it between the tackles. Punishing. He finishes runs like no other. Runs through contact, pulls through contact, as you alluded to. His ability to break tackles makes him a guy that you can continue to give the ball 25, 30 times and know that you're going to have success. And franchise. Everyone who lines up against the Minnesota Vikings knows that it begins and ends with Adrian Peterson, yet they never can seem to slow him down. This is a guy, you talk about being able to get 2,000 yards coming back. He is just a remarkable player with the ball in his hands. If he caught the ball a little more, I would say probably he's one of the best players in NFL history, but he's a fantastic running back. It's hard to find a guy that has more things that they bring to the table than Adrian Peterson.
No, he's outstanding. Let's move on now. Shady McCoy. In Philadelphia, I had a chance to be around him. Now he goes up to Buffalo. It's going to be interesting to see how he fits in this Greg Roman system. Totally different than what he did in Philly. But if you had to describe him in 3 traits, Buck, what do you got?
Jitterbug. Hold on. Let me say that again. Jitterbug.
Yep.
Dynamic and versatile. This is a guy that he's just a squirt monster in terms of his ability to jump in and out of holes, his lateral quickness, his creativity as a runner. His ability to make big plays happen and cut back against the grain is uncommon. In the pros, you're not supposed to be able to do some of the things that he does because the defenses are supposed to be
don't reverse field.
Don't reverse field.
Don't do that.
Don't cut all the way back. Don't take it all the way outside. You can't bounce outside and just run. But Shady McCoy has special traits. Dynamic in terms of his ability to make plays, not only as a runner, but in the passing game. That also speaks to his versatility. I believe he's one of those rare guys that could be, if he was in an offense that required him to be, a 100-1,000 guy, meaning 100 catches, 1,000 yards. He's certainly capable of doing it. We've seen him do a lot of remarkable things. He is a guy that I'm excited to see how the Buffalo Bills build their offense around him.
All right, my 3 traits for Shady here. Silky, because he just got that smooth, silky glide to him. He has no stiffness whatsoever. Elusive. You get in space. Look, he's as elusive as anybody. You get in space, people don't get a hand on him. To me, it's one of those deals when you're charting plays on the defensive side of the ball. Is that a missed tackle? Because he literally didn't touch him.
Yeah.
And he's just so elusive in space. And then you touched on it, lateral quickness. To me, that lateral quickness that he has, and I think people get confused because it's a scouting term, and you say, well, it's just quickness, right? No. You can be quick going forward and be able to change. His ability to take up space laterally, to get from 5 yards on the left to 5 yards on the right and cover that distance immediately. I mean, it's different. He's just different than everybody else.
No, we call it the jump cut, the ability to put 2 feet in the ground, then hop to the outside, hop to the other side. All running backs don't have that special ability, and because he is so good getting in and out of holes, makes him one of the guys that is always going to be like a 12 to 1,300 yards.
You like him in Buffalo? This is a different scheme now, Greg Roman.
Yeah, I like him. I think Greg Roman will quickly find out what he has. He's different because he's not like Frank Gore, who's more of a between the tackles hammerhead that really has that patient running style. Shady McCoy is a guy that jumps around. I think there'll be some growing pains, but I expect him to find his footing very quickly. In terms of a guy that found his footing very quickly in the National Football League, Le'Veon Bell. What do you like about him? What are the traits that he brings to the table?
Well, me and you have talked about this a bunch in terms of I've never seen a player change more from college to the NFL. He lost so much weight when he went from Michigan State to the Pittsburgh Steelers from kind of you've mentioned T.J. Duckett is kind of who we remind you of, that big physical pounder. Now he shows up with Pittsburgh, and I'll give you the 3 words that I have: shake, dynamic, and mismatch in space. Those are the 3 ways I would describe him. He has got so much shake in the open field, very similar to LeSean McCoy. And our Dave Damashek had said that a while back when he had just come into the league. And I said, Dave, you're crazy. He's a pounding running back. He's not a LeSean McCoy type. Well, Dave, being a Pittsburgh guy, had followed him during that preseason. I hadn't paid attention to him. And I pop in the tape. I'm like, oh, my gosh, this doesn't even look like the same dude. He has got so much shake in the open field. He's dynamic. That ability when he spreads out and you line him up in the slot or spread him out wide, he looks like a wide receiver out there, Buck, and that's why I say he's a mismatch when he gets in space. There's no linebacker in the NFL that's covering this guy.
No, it's funny because when he was in college at Michigan State, I had the chance to watch him. I kind of compared him to Steven Jackson when Steven Jackson was in his prime because he was everything to the Michigan State offense. He ran it, he caught it. He could do a lot of different things in a pro-style offense. And so the three words that I have to describe him, deliberate, vision, and sticky. Deliberate in terms of his patience. I've never seen a young back exhibit so much patience getting in and out of the hole. You talk about being slow to and explode through. He embodies that with the way that he runs the ball between the tackles. Just a very patient. He never seems to be in a rush, but when he spots the crease, he finds a way to get through it. His vision, his ability to spot creases on the backside. Patient runner, understands how to read blocks and maneuver and slip through traffic. But sticky speaks to his hands. Mm-hmm. This is a guy that is a natural pass catcher, catches screens, catches balls on the perimeter, can run routes as being a displaced guy. And because he brings all of those skills to the table, he really has helped Pittsburgh's offense go from good to great since his arrival.
One thing he does that's unbelievable in space is he gets linebackers to settle their feet. And when you can do that, if you're an explosive athlete, you get a linebacker to get both feet into the ground, he's going to start up again, and their engine doesn't start quite as fast.
Yes.
That's what he does, is able to make people miss in space. All right, two more to go here, Bucky. Jamaal Charles for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Man, this is a guy, it's funny to think about Jamaal Charles being a third-round pick. Coming out of Texas, he was a track star, but he comes to the National Football League and has found his way. The three words that I would use, patient, beep, beep, and playmaker. Patient, it refers to his ability to really take his time, get into the hole, to read and set up his blocks. He understands how to play in that zone-based scheme where he doesn't have a lot of negative plays. I want to say he's averaged over 5 yards per carry throughout his career. Really understands how to be a good decision maker. The beep beep refers to his road runner-like quickness. His ability to have that sudden acceleration and burst, get to the next level, break off big plays, and do so much in the middle of that Chiefs offense, and his playmaking ability. As a runner, receiver, everything. For so long, we talk about the issues that they've had at wide receiver, not being able to score or put the ball in the paint in the passing game. Jamaal Charles is the ultimate playmaker because no matter how you get him the ball, he makes it happen. He has really been the driving force to that offense for a number of years. I just believe he's the ultimate playmaker at the position.
Half a first down every time he runs.
I mean, that's unbelievable.
I mean, that's crazy.
That's unbelievable.
Through his career. He's phenomenal. The words I would use, the terms I would use, burst to me, and we talk about that, just being able to just explode through. North and south runner. A lot of times you get a speed back, they're going to want to play laterally, and they're going to want to run sideline to sideline. He is a north-south guy. He wants to get downhill. He's going to go at you directly. And then finally, he's a home run hitter. There's guys, and we'll get to him a little bit later on in the episode, Amir Abdullah, who I love from Detroit. He can get 0 to 60 as fast as anybody, but that second gear in the open field to be able to take it the distance, a little bit of a question mark. Jamaal Charles, he has another gear if he needs it. He is a home run hitter.
Yeah, home run hitter, but he also has the toughness, which is so uncommon to see in young and running backs that are guys that were kind of considered track guys. Now, this is the next guy we're going to talk about, DeMarco Murray. I think he's underrated. When you look at DeMarco Murray, he's making a move from Dallas to Philly. What do you see when you evaluate him on tape?
Well, the three words that I'll use, decisive, okay? He sees it and he goes. He doesn't waste any time. He's a finisher. He lowers his pads and finishes every run. And then his style, which is his trademark to me, he's upright. And that's when he takes the handoff, when he gets the ball in his hands, you'll see him. He's very erect, very vertical runner. And then he has the ability to drop his pads on contact. But that's his style. That's what he looks like. And people have always evoked, okay, he's not Eric Dickerson, but that is what Eric Dickerson looked like running the ball. Just very, very tall and angular. But look, DeMarco Murray, in a put-your-foot-in-the-ground offense that you want to get north and south, he is perfect for that. And I think people in Philadelphia thought that look, this is Chip Kelly. It's all about speed and elusiveness and scat backs. Philly wants to get north and south with physical pounding runners, and now they have two when you look at what they have there right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone who really studied Chip Kelly, they should go back and look at what he had at Oregon. You talk about the Jonathan Stewarts and some of the bigger backs, like Garrett Blunts, the bigger backs that played in that system successfully. That's really what he wants to get down to. The 3 words for me for DeMarco Murray: downhill, deceptive, and natural. Downhill runner, north-south, very efficient. He attacks the line of scrimmage with a vigor and burst. He really does a great job of keeping his shoulders square, and because of that, you don't really see a lot of negative runs for him. So when you talk about Philly's offense wanting to be more downhill, more direct, we see that from DeMarco Murray. Deceptive in terms of his speed and quickness. I think because of the upright running style, you liken him to Eric Dickerson. I think people are kind of fooled by how quick and explosive he is in the hole and when he gets out in space. And natural refers to his hands. He is a great receiver out of the backfield. I think those traits will be showcased in Philly. I know a lot of people have given his success last year as the leading rusher to the offensive line, and they deserve credit. But this guy is a good runner, and whenever he's been healthy in Dallas, he's always been productive. And so I fully expect him to have a phenomenal season in Philadelphia as the workhorse in an offense that is really built for him to be a downhill runner.
And for those that are listening for the first time, producer TD behind the glass, there's nothing he loves more than rank it and bank it. And the definition of what rank it and bank it is and what our assignment is for today, what we got?
We always got a countdown, man. You know, you got to get down the countdown. What we're going to do, we did it last week with edge rushers. Top 3 running back skills. Not the running backs, but the skills about those running backs that you like, their traits. So we're going to have Bucky go first. We get top 3 running back skills.
Okay, the first trait that I look for in a running back is balance. Le'Veon Bell, to me, is the guy that embodies that. When you talk about his ability to get in and out of holes, to run square, to put his foot in the ground, to really have the body control that you look for at the position, I think his balance is essential to being an outstanding runner in the National Football League. The second thing that I look for in running backs that I think is essential is I think they have to have a level of power. Marshawn Lynch, to me, is really the perfect embodiment of that trait. Runs through contact, breaks tackles, has the finishing skills that you look for at the end of runs. He plays the position the way that you have to play it in those cold weather months. He is a guy that has the power to look for. And finally, Adrian Peterson, the aggressiveness. The game is a violent game. You need to have a violent runner, a guy that can really impose their will on the defense, down in, down out, week in, week out. Adrian Peterson is an ultra-aggressive guy, a guy that really gets it done between the tackles. I love to see how he goes about his business running between the tackles.
And you're going to feel it. When you talk about aggressiveness of Adrian Peterson, when you finish the day after playing the Minnesota Vikings, you're going to feel that aggressiveness as a defensive player because he does not take hits, he gives hits, Buck.
Yeah, he absolutely punishes people. So we've heard my 3. What are your 3 traits? What are the 3 things that you look for?
Well, to me, these are my 3 favorites. So these are my 3 favorite traits to watch when I'm studying these particular players. And number 3 for me on the list is a guy I was around, LeSean McCoy, with the Philadelphia Eagles, now with the Buffalo Bills, and that's his elusiveness, his ability to make people miss in space, make people look silly. Grown professionals in the National Football League shouldn't look as bad as they look trying to tackle LeSean McCoy. So his elusiveness would be number 3 on my list. Number 2 for me, I'm going to go to Marshawn Lynch. And so many times with Marshawn, we talk about the power, we talk about the strength. I love his patience. He is so fun to watch. He's so natural. He's so instinctive. His vision is outstanding, and he's patient to let things set up. I love watching him tote the rock. And then finally, we love speed. You always love speed, and nobody has more of it than you're watching than a guy like Jamaal Charles. So Jamaal Charles' burst is my favorite thing. Just watching a little tiny crease and watching him explode through, and he is gone. You saw it on Texas, and you thought, okay, but can he carry 15 to 20 times a game? Is he going to be able to hold up? Has had some injury issues, but overall, I mean, you talk about nailing a draft pick. Jamaal Charles has been a phenomenal player for the Kansas City Chiefs, and a lot of it's because of that burst.
No, that burst, his home run ability is real. Like all those traits, you know, when you think about the elusiveness, the burst, the patience, the vision, so many things you have to really make a good running back. And it's really sometimes hard to evaluate those guys in today's college game. Because you see him.
I want to ask you that. So, like Ohio State, we'll take a quick detour to the college game here real quick. Ohio State, I watched Zeke Elliott on tape over the summer. He's phenomenal. He's 6 foot, 215 pounds. He's got power, all that stuff. Bucky, I'm watching him running through wide open space. I'm going, I don't know how to evaluate this.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. You know, the one thing with Ezekiel Elliott is watching him in those big games, and he did absolutely obliterate them on the way to those opponents on the way to winning the championship. But it will be something that you see. Can you see it? Maybe you can get it in workouts. Maybe you can get it when you watch tape with those guys. But in today's college game, when you're looking at spread guys, sometimes it's hard to find those guys that have the power, the vision, the explosiveness to create on their own. That is the trait that you're looking for.
By the way, you've noticed that, I'm sure as I have, a lot of people clamoring for some college football discussion. TD, can we get Matt Money Smith to join us and get the gang back together so we can do maybe 10 or 15 minutes on an episode where we could jump into college?
Most definitely during the season. We have 2 episodes this week, and that's going to be the way throughout the whole year. So we have Matt Money come on, and you guys can, chat.
Riff a little bit on the college game. I miss talking. I'm so pumped up for college season, man. I can't wait. All right, Buck. One young running back. We did it last week with linebackers. A young running back to watch this year.
Now, I just talked about you can't give all the credit to the Dallas Cowboys offensive line for DeMarco Murray, but I'm going to say the offensive line is going to help this running back, Joseph Randle, have success. Joseph Randle is a young player that has really come on like gangbusters, averaged 6.7 yards per carry last year in that offense.
That good?
I think giving him an opportunity to really be the workhorse in Dallas could be something that is very, very beneficial. I love his vision. I love his quickness and ability to get in and out of traffic. If he catches the ball well and continues to hold up and shows that he has the durability that you look for in a position, I think he could be a guy that gains 1,200 yards behind that line.
No, I'm a big fan of his. We'll see how he does. That offensive line is just moving people. They had a tackle last year that just was their swing tackle, Parnell, who goes to the Jags. He looks like a Pro Bowler playing in Jacksonville in the preseason. That's how loaded they are. I'm going to go Amir Abdullah. Reference him a little bit earlier on in the show. Coming out, he was a fun player to watch. I went to the Holiday Bowl, watched him against USC, and as well as he ran the ball and he catch the ball, all that stuff's great. What jumped out to me was watching him on kickoff return, and for some reason, look, on special teams, I get an idea of what kind of personality that you have. How aggressive are you? How physical are you? And he takes kickoffs, Buck. He does not slow step. I mean, he is going full speed. They started about every drive at the 40 or 50-yard line in that game and just showed me this guy's the right temperament for this game. And we've seen in the preseason the quickness, the power, the explosiveness. Doesn't have that top speed, but, man, he is a great fit for what they do in Detroit.
Crowded backfield in Detroit.
Theo Riddick.
And I like Theo Riddick. It'll be interesting to see how they kind of mix Amir Abdullah in. I certainly think he'll carve out a nice role, catch the ball well out the backfield, also can run it. He is certainly showing up early in the preseason, so I think there's some excitement about him. He definitely has to get an opportunity to play a lot.
No, you mentioned a crowded backfield. TD, you had another, your favorite player in the preseason.
Yeah, who's your favorite player? Let's go.
Not my favorite.
Whoa, hold on. I'm going to say Bucky. All right. I'm going to say he's got a 1 in 15 chance of pronouncing this name correctly. Okay. Go ahead, TD. What do you got?
That's not fair because you were here before the show and I was
Go ahead. Go for it.
Double Z, Zach Zenner.
What last name?
Zenner. There we go.
Okay. Somebody gave you the answers back there, didn't they?
No, they didn't.
There's like 50 people behind the glass. But
yeah, I mean, obviously social media was a buzz. A couple of games he's played. Like, who is this kid? Who is Zach Zenner? All
right, I'll tell you. Zach Zenner, South Dakota State running back. Last year at the Combine, he's almost 6 feet, 5'11" and a half, 223 pounds. He ran 4.6 the Combine, Buck. My notes when I watched him, the first play against Missouri is a bad snap. He just picks the ball up off the ground, goes 75 yards for a touchdown. And then in that same game, he had 7 catches. They used him some in the slot. He's got a lot of burst. The white running back, Buck.
Coming back.
He's coming back.
A lot of excitement about it. I studied him extensively against Jacksonville because I do these preseason grades and report cards, and he stood out. Look, this is a guy that runs with power. He flashed the ability to get in and out of traffic, finishes runs really well. In the Redskins game, he caught 5 passes for 59 yards, and so you saw his ability to be a playmaker. And so when you add the skills together, his ability to run effectively inside and then catch the ball on the perimeter, there may be a role for him because he got 85 yards against the Jaguars, and he did it in impressive fashion. He might work his way onto the 53-man roster.
Yeah, he's got a tough roster.
Tough, because we talked about that crowded backfield. Like, he's going to have to be a special teams demon to earn a jersey.
That's going to do it for us today on Move the Sticks. Bucky, appreciate you hanging with me, man.
No, it was good. It was fun.
We've got this will be up on iTunes, it'll be on NFL.com, and it'll be on YouTube. So if you're listening to it and you want to watch the podcast, you can do so on YouTube. You can subscribe to the show there as well. If you're on iTunes, subscribe to it, leave us a message there, and send us some notes on Twitter. We appreciate your feedback.
Thanks for downloading Move the Sticks with Daniel Jeremiah. For more, go to NFL.com/podcast.